I totally understand. So we have the A and M, so I totally get it. You said earlier. I don't know if it's her brother or how that relation. I think so, but I don't know for certain. Yeah, I'm all for certain. That's what it is.
And this is a brother and Eddie, right?
Yes. Yes. So I'm pretty sure that I know from the family dynamics. I don't know 100% for certain unless they introduce me. Right. Exactly.
Still got
I think it's on its way.
in the middle of it.
But actually, when I usually get involved there, yeah, as soon as I walk in on the situation, it's ultimately it was fine. And we're just, that's what's unfortunate. I just wish we didn't have to come to that.
Yeah, that's kind of what's
Very
you are. Just curious.
Because I had to do an update. I had to search for it. Mine wasn't working or something. Just a second then. Evidently right down on a pair of others. Check for updates. And so I went down and checked the updates. As soon as I did an update, it's 3 levels. 3 levels.
That's the lowest. What's the FACS club?
Yeah.
And Christy
No, this one, that one is Family and Consumer Science.
FCS.
When I was in college, it was
And it was going to cancel and restart, and it worked. Sometimes it's best not to share.
just on Fridays.
I mean, she could be having fingers of the
I've designed that.
or an arrow pointing at you.
Donkey.
And this is the ultimate trust.
Bob needs to write stolen clock. Yeah. I'm giving it I was thinking, how could I kill him? No, I looked over my pencil.
Nancy from students.
She's there on band.
3 of them.
What's that?
3 of them.
Okay, no, I was just making sure that. Okay.
She sent me, made sure to send us all a picture of her name.
Well, it's 6 o'clock. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Thanks for all of you guys coming. First item on the, we have to approve or amend the agenda. Are there any amendments? Okay. by Ken. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the same. We have recognition of citizen comments or request to speak on to the agenda items, correspondence, recognition of students and staff. Is there any correspondence? None at this time. Any recognition? Yes, we do. I'd like to congratulate the West Sioux Homecoming Royalty. We have Michaela Bivens, Katrina Caulfield, Carly Deckers, Shannon Jasper, who is the queen, Ashley Peterson, Alex Hernandez, who is the king, Jesus Rivera, Jake Sano, Mitch Slumbum, and Dalton Waterman. Congratulations to those. Congratulations to Abby Erickson and Logan Veen Striggy on making it to the Northwest Iowa Band Association Honor Band. Congratulations to them. Old business, everybody have a chance to look at the board policies on 209.12, 210.8. The ones we had previous, and we have to vote on them tonight to approve them as they are stated in them. It's the basic use of credit cards, about the annual meeting, the regular meeting, special meetings, work sessions, meeting notices, quorums, and the rules of order, and the board meeting agenda.
I have a question. How many credit cards do we have?
I would say we probably have about 10.
Okay, so you're aware the revisions made to them were, we have a quorum at 3, and we changed the meeting time to 6 o'clock. Is there a motion to accept?
I'll make a motion to accept.
Ken made a motion. Is there any discussion before we take the facts? Excuse me. If not, Dawn made the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. On the consent agenda, we have September minutes. Everybody had a chance to read through those. I believe everybody was here at the last meeting, correct? Is there a motion on the floor?
For the
Is that
minutes?
amendment, Brett? Yep.
I'll make a motion to accept the September minutes.
Any discussion? If not, is there a second? Seconded by Dawn. All those in favor accepting the September minutes as read, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. And then we have the September invoices. You want to, anybody wants to go through them? Danny can help us with them. Yep.
policy that deals with PD, for, I guess that's professional development. Do we have a policy on that?
In reference to applying for, or which ones are? Is that
Does the board have a policy on paying for those kinds of things? They do have a policy?
Policy,
I
but
don't
we
know
have a
necessarily on
fund.
a board policy, but there is a policy in which we follow on applying for professional development. We have a form that they need to fill out and submit to the principals that outlines what the PD is, what they actually plan to use it for, what the goals of the PD are for, and that they will submit an evaluation upon the completion of that professional development, and as to whether they want if it is at a date in which we don't have school, if they want it at a per diem rate to pay for their hours of work, or if they want the dollars to go towards the professional development itself. And that's all found on that form. But I do not know if there's a board policy pertaining to professional development.
Could I have a copy of that policy, please?
You bet. And actually, it'll just be a form. There won't necessarily be a policy or a number. It's just a form that the teachers fill out.
I wondered if there was something official about that. Because what happens if they do the professional development and then they get another pay grade step?
And those have to be, go ahead.
And that would be part of the payment. But we still pay for them to get to that point.
Because they have to actually put forward, do you have the date, Randy, do you know the date that they have to submit that they will be making a change in their lane or step, or excuse me, in their lane, that they'll have to submit before they get to that point that would have to be approved prior to that.
That I understand.
Yeah.
My question then is, if we pay for the professional development, and then when they get enough of those hours to move to the next step, we're going to pay more for that.
Correct.
Well, does that sound like double dipping?
I think that it actually, in regards to professional development that I've seen on a general scale, that I think our kids benefit exponentially from professional development our teachers get. And if I provide training to a teacher that makes them a better teacher in the classroom, I would gladly pay during that time and for the salary increase, because I know they're a better teacher in the classroom, and that's what it's about.
I think that's probably far enough with that.
Well, in support of that, in general, in business, there's a lot of places that do training that allow you to get to a pay scale in business. As far as policy, I'm not aware of it. A policy, I know there's a form, and I know they have to watch that.
Okay.
Be one to look up. I don't know. There might be one in board policy I'm not aware of that I referenced.
I don't think there is, because I think I read it.
Likely it's in master contract, so we can check that too.
It isn't a master contract.
Well,
We'll look.
I don't think so.
yeah, I don't know if there is. There could be.
Okay, that's fine, thank you.
What we really need to do is have a motion on the floor and then discuss it, and then decide if we want to table it, let it go aside, or second it, and ask for a vote. If we want to do things the way I've researched them.
There you go.
Do we have a motion? Anybody would like to make a motion to accept the minutes?
So
Invoices?
The minutes or the invoices?
The minutes we've already done. The
So are the
invoices.
invoices.
Ken had the motion. Do we have any further discussion? Any questions or any items that need more explanation? If not, can I entertain for a second?
So moved.
Tim carried second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Now, we can do two things, I guess before we've done through the whole consent agenda, I just remember that, and then we asked for the vote. So how would we rather do that?
I would rather do the whole consent agenda as one, but if we can decide to pull them out individually, if we would rather do that and have more discussion on them.
As long as we cover them thoroughly. So, okay. Go to the Secretary's financial report. Do you want to go through some of that, Randy?
Yeah, I can make a brief comment. Danny does a wonderful job of reporting. Big picture, I'll get into more detail during the superintendent's report as far as numbers. Big picture is we're in great shape financially, so no surprises. You'll notice the expenditures are up, but if you compare them to past years, you know, comparing apples to apples, this time a year ago, they're up about 90,000. If you look at past years, they'd be up 150,000. So actually, that's not bad. That's right on track. We know we're going to spend more money this year. We've increased our FTEs. We have grant money that's funded new positions. So no surprises there. And again, during the superintendent's report, I'll give you more detail.
I think what we'd like to do is explain the daycare line, either Carrie or Danny. I think all the board members had asking about the negative side of it, and there's an explanation for that.
Yep. We're at a point where our yellow room, our baby room is very full, but it's also the most costly room because you have a ratio of 4 babies to 1 adult. And so we're at 12 babies, which is great, but our rates maybe aren't at the level of the cost. So we're not making enough money with the higher needs there. Whereas once I turn 2, the ratio is a higher ratio of child per adult. So you tend to make a little more money in the older ages because the ratio is higher. So I am now looking at different daycares. We Care has their rates pretty similar to ours. They're slightly higher though, especially at the baby level. So I'd like to consider looking at raising rates, but I also would like a daycare board reestablished. At one point in time, there was a daycare board, and it hasn't been together in quite some time, for years. So I'd like to reestablish that to make sure that parents are included, school board members. If there's somebody, I think Tim said maybe he'd be interested in helping on that, and kind of get this all figured out so that we no longer have to wonder where that money's coming from. We also have families that are behind in their payments, and so we really need to start being tough on that, and I'm making those calls. So there's definitely a plan.
And then Danny has additional.
Yep, I did explain this to a couple of you, but those families that pay through pay schools, that money goes into our ISJA account, and I did not get that money moved until October. So this report does not reflect August and September daycare revenue through pay school, and that is just over $3,000. So that's not reflected on this report.
Thank you.
Yep. It's always tight every month.
Yeah, it's just that when we see that, it's like, there's got to be something.
Danny, how much was that per day?
Just over $3,000.
Okay, we're under personnel. We have contracts for Mr. Clarenby, golf coach contract adjustment. It comes up to $26.77.28 based upon step 5 of the 2013-14 salary schedule, which is 6% of $31,288. Plus, that's a raise of $300 of stipend, which was previously $500. Now it's $800, correct? Then also for a substitute van driver, Kathleen Knight, Akron. A lot of you know who she is. $17.17 per hour based upon the first step of the 2013-14 salary schedule, and there's 3 steps, I believe, to that. van driving, right? There's 5 steps to a van. Oh, is there? Okay, excuse me. We also have resignations from Elizabeth Isles, who was an aide at the Ironton Center. Any questions? Need a motion to accept them as they are presented to us?
So move.
Tim made a motion to accept the remaining consent agenda as read. Any discussion, needed explanation, comments? If not, I entertain a second. Seconded by Ken. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Okay, we have reports from Mr. Kramer, Mrs. Onstead, and Mr. Collins.
I'll have my, in the back there, they could come on up, introduce themselves.
I'm the president, Callie Schmidt, of FCCLA, which is Family, Career, Community Leaders of America. And we're a new group, so we were coming here to ask that we could fundraise for our group to make our cost of going on our trips, like leadership conferences, a little less expensive. So we came up with some ideas of fundraising. We were going to sell some of the world's greatest chocolate bars, just little candy bars, and we'd sell them as soon as we can for like about a month here in the fall, and then later in the spring we would like to sell beef jerky, like 1 stick, sell it for like $1, and we'd get like half the profit.
Why don't you tell them a little bit about the organization? So,
Well, FCCLA likes to promote like healthy living and personal growth.
Yeah, and we just went to a conference down in Story City today that taught us like a lot of things. Like failure isn't an option, but it can be, and just taught us how to like fail and then move up from that. So it was a really interesting thing to go to, and it only cost us $15, but with our fundraising it could cost us less. So that's why we want to.
How many students do you have?
We have
16.
Miss Fettis is their advisor, and she was, along with the girls and the individuals in the classes, came up with the idea to have this organization. That is a national organization, and they've done a great job. They presented to me about a month ago with their ideas. And what were some of you've already had one night that you had,
we had a movie night a week ago, and that was like our whole FCCLA group, and we all got together and we watched a movie. We had ice cream, we had like a little ice cream bar, and then we plan on this month going rollerblading, December going bowling, and January like going to Sky Zone, so some group events. And then we'd also go to like, we'd do some like community service projects, like an adopted grandparent thing, where we'd go to the nursing home. And
we also planned Valentine's for vets, where we just write Valentine's for them. Some of our other ones were, it's a thing to do with FCCLA, it's Soul for
Shoes for Souls.
Yeah, and you just collect shoes and they just give them to people that need them.
you guys each share why you decided to join this organization or had an interest in being a part of this organization?
I chose chose to be in it because it was just something new, you know. All my friends were going to be in it, so I was like, why not?
Yeah, it was just something new, and it sounded like fun, like coming up with activities to do with all my friends.
Yeah, something new and something to do with other people besides just my friends.
I chose it because Miss Pettis talked about it and how much fun she had in high school. I wanted to try it.
anything else you think the board should know about this organization?
I guess I know who a couple of them are, but a couple of them I don't.
Introduce your names.
I'm Alyssa McGillicuddy, and I'm the secretary.
Callie Schmidt, and I'm the president.
Jenna Rader, I'm vice president.
Margaret Jamgard, and I'm the treasurer.
Thank you, very nice, Jeff.
Thank you.
And on your, when we get to it later in the agenda, they are listed under the FACS club underneath the fundraisers. So just so you can reference that. I just had a few additional items underneath my report. Very excited Thursday. We'll host 20 teams for the state qualifying cross-country meet out at the Hayward Golf Course, which brings in roughly about 250 runners on Thursday that we could have out there utilizing our great golf course to run cross-country. And it's a great opportunity to bring people in the community that may not get over to our side, especially kind of unusual to have all the way over to Pocahontas from this way to host that. And then of course we host the volleyball playoffs tomorrow night for George Little Rock, and then on Friday our last home football game, and that will be to determine who will go to the first round of the football playoffs, and that will take place next Wednesday evening. Will be the first round of the playoffs if we were to win Friday night. The potential, most likely, if we were to win on Friday night, would be that we would play in Ackley, Iowa, the following Wednesday. Also very excited in my report in the number of students we again increased at the middle school, high school level, and very excited because of course that means more things that we can offer students, and again by hiring great new teachers with kind of a fashion of looking at things, and we're bringing some of their experiences from other areas and bringing to expose our young high schoolers into these activities that you know, for a time based on numbers we haven't been able to have those type of organizations, and by increasing that, the probability of getting new organizations, also increasing our numbers in the ones that we have existing, is pretty exciting, because that means we're offering more and varied experiences for kids, and that's what we need to do as much as possible. I don't have anything in addition to what I had written, so if I have any questions I can sure try to answer those.
How are we doing academically?
Academic?
Yeah, this is the second meeting, I haven't heard much about academics.
Well, we talked about the ACT data last month,
That was
and that specifics,
not very
yeah.
much.
And then we talk about in reporting periods in regards to where we are with CSIP planning and those type of things. Academically, regards around a lot of evaluation criteria within the classrooms. Am I completely happy with ITBS scores from spring and think they're perfect? Absolutely not. Do I see improvements in regards to some of those scores and where we're heading? I think we're on the right track. I'm very excited about the adaptions coming up and the success that we have coming up through what I'm seeing through kids. When you make a curriculum change, really my estimate lies there's usually about 6 or 7 years before we see a dramatic increase to make determinations if that was successful. And especially with any of the strategies that we've done with AIW, I think we're still very early on in seeing if those are successful and how we're doing. But academics are a long-term process to see if we can make a change dramatically within a classroom structure.
Okay, so what's AIW since I...
Authentic intellectual work, and that's actually what our primary driving force behind professional development is. And I think actually, are you going to be discussing that up in the coming month? Or?
Yep, as a spotlight. Yep.
Yeah, we were talking about doing that as a spotlight for the board, to have a reflection on that.
How is things going with Mr. Devery?
In the alternative high school, I think it's going very well. I don't know, I can't remember if I've discussed this in great detail. We currently offer a program through the alternative high school that's called Plato, and students have the option of taking their courses for credit when they reach the alternative high school setting online. This is kind of a different type of learning. Even in other states like Utah, there's a requirement to graduate from high school. They need to have taken an online course. when we look at online learning, there's a lot of benefits that we're seeing because of the option of taking so many varied courses. We have a number of kids that are taking college courses through the computer network. It used to be where many of our college courses were only offered through the ICN network. The ICN, of course, being via a camera and looking at the TV and having that interaction. Now it might be just completely online through just chat messages or emails and things, or it might be through video conferencing. But it offers something unique. With the Play-Doh, it is fully a automated class. They don't have necessarily an instructor that they're discussing with back and forth. It offers the outline of the entire course. The students go through on their own pace through that course. And then if they have any questions, Mr. Debrick might have a question on algebra 1 minute, but then the student over here might be working on biology and might be facing questions over in biology the very next minute. So it's a unique challenge, and to be prepared for every different facet of a question that you might have, but it really allows kids, if they're highly motivated, but couldn't fit into that mold or setting in the traditional class from an 8 to 3:30, it allows them to work at a pace that is either faster or, in some cases, maybe a little bit slower to what their individual needs are. But I think it's working very successfully, and this is our second year with the Play-Doh program with 2 different instructors, and I think we are going to see a dramatic increase nationwide of kids getting credits through that avenue. And I think we're seeing it through homeschool students. We're seeing it through other states in the requirement for graduation. I think it is something that we have to continually be on the leading edge of it, because it's going to be something that could potentially leave schools completely non-prepared for what's coming in our learners.
So he's offering several different curriculums.
Yeah, I don't have a number off the top of my head, but I know it's there's over 30 different courses that kids could be taking.
Is there, I don't call it a danger, or is there any scenario that could happen where kids leave the general school, they drop out, and they come back in alternative school?
It's kind of depends on really the type of student. There is, and I wouldn't necessarily say that danger. I think we always have that potential of kids that we might not fit in the traditional setting. It allows them the opportunity to still get that graduation, or seek that graduation or diploma in a different avenue that still has high expectations, because it's not, in any stretch of the imagination, lowering the bar. If a kid passes a course via the Play-Doh service, they're still exactly outlined and meeting those same standards, and that would be expected of a student within a regular setting. But I think it allows kids to work at an own pace, which sometimes it's hard to do in a classroom of 25. You are struggling as a teacher, and I know full well myself, to individualize instruction for 25 kids is impossible. And a piece of technology can offer those things. It's very unique and something exciting for kids to look either develop, where we have teachers working in conjunction with those online courses. I think schooling looks dramatically different. I don't know. I've thought that for years, but things could change. This might be the driving force. Iowa's getting on board quite quickly with the basis of looking at content-based as opposed to seat time. When you start looking at that, you're not talking about sitting in a seat for 7 hours as a requirement to get your diploma. You're talking about, you pass these requirements, you'll be getting the diploma in however long time it takes you to complete that course. It could be as quick as a year, it could be 6 years.
Aren't the Sharps following that Play-Doh in their track?
Yes, that is correct.
How are they evaluated?
Using the assessments on Plato system.
Under supervision or just there?
Explain that, under supervision. Like can they take a test on the computer and then we check it? The system actually checks who's doing it.
So once they take it, they don't take it again, right?
No, we don't require a second assessment to be taken, no.
And if they don't make it, then what do you do?
They have to retake partial pieces of the course that they fail. And we've set 80% as the criteria for assessments. And so if they fail a quiz or an assessment or a working problem, then it gets reset and they have to redo it.
Different material.
Same material.
Same idea.
Yep.
Different state.
Right, right.
Are those students that we have in alternative high school, are they counted in your 6 through 12?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. You know, big picture, I don't think we blow our horn often enough, because last year, very few people are aware that last year we had 2 students who scored perfect ACTs on science. So we need to get the word out. We do have examples of outstanding academic achievement here. Also last month, Mrs. Fonstad did a great job of explaining to us good news, bad news. Due to the unreasonable expectations of No Child Left Behind, which I guarantee in a year, every district in the state will be a school in need of improvement, because the requirement is 100%, and it's unachievable. So even though we're a school in need of improvement, Mrs. Fonstad pointed out that the teachers are doing a great job because we can dig into the data and show growth. So even though our kids are getting better and showing improvement, the requirements that were set back in 2004, because we thought, you know, surely this will go away by then, are so unreasonable that 65% of the districts currently have that status of schools in need of improvement. So I hope we don't take that too much to heart. That's not an indication that we're not doing great things with our kids. I think what we need to do is take a look at growth. Where was Johnny last year? Where is he this year? If we're showing a year or more of growth, that's good progress. And my understanding is that's what we're seeing.
The trouble is that the state doesn't recognize that. And they're the people above us. Now, I have understood through some kind of place that there has been mistakes on that, and that if you didn't review some of the things, that it's possible there was some mistakes made on it.
Sioux City actually,
Yeah.
They made the
It was in the
headlines
paper.
Yes, in the paper and the news. Immediately following that, Mr. Hansen made a call to the state asking that exact question: are we part of that mistake that Sioux City was included in? And they said they made it very clear that they disagreed with the statement made by the superintendent of the Sioux City schools, and that they made a mistake, and that it did not account for all of their district. It accounted for a couple of select schools that actually changed theirs, but overall they held firm that they were correct in their data analysis, and there were a couple of mistakes in regards to the Sioux City schools, but there were no mistakes after they took a look at other districts in the state of Iowa. But yes, it's always important that we take a fine-tooth comb and take and look. And after we get our ITBS scores, we do look to see if there's red flags out there. That why in the world we know this student who is very successful scored in this way, or if we know this student scored the other way on the very high side when they haven't been exhibiting that within the classroom, and trying to take a look at those.
I would like to make one more comment. Actually, the states applied for a waiver. It's the federal
But
government.
they turned us down.
All right. The federal government is the one that's imposing the unreasonable restrictions. Now, they granted waivers, I think it's to 42 of the states in the nation. So we're in the minority right now, but it's because us Iowans are just a little bit stubborn, because the federal government is saying in order to be granted a waiver, you have to include in your teacher evaluation system how much of a weight will student achievement be given. We refuse to do that as a state, so the feds are clubbing us. Okay, so we're in the minority right now. In the nation, of states are being held hostage to the unreasonable requirements, but they're trying to work it out. So I was going to resubmit the request for a waiver. If it's not granted, every district in the state will be a school in need of improvement next year. Happy birthday.
Thanks, Ryan.
I have my report. Basically, we are looking at a part-time need for preschool, part-time position. Our preschool needs are rather high. And in the past, we were able to use associates that were special ed associates in the classroom, but our needs are higher now. So we are looking at a part-time associate to support the gen ed preschool students, which is in comparison to the other preschools that are around us. They have, as well, they have paraprofessional support within the classroom.
We have one preschool class right now.
Atlas.
And then is that the
We
numbers
also
of kids?
we also are in charge of the 4-year-old preschool for weekend, and we have an aide for that one. So look, say again.
Is it because we've increased the number of students?
No,
Or-
increased in number of need, the need of the students, because we have the special ed, BCE, early childhood program, because of the special ed as well. We are very unique and diverse in our programming. There aren't many school districts around us that include our special ed students within the preschool setting. And so that's why the increase. In the past, our special ed support person has been able to do both, but the needs are more now due to new students, higher needs.
Okay. Sina.
Sina is, Sina. Just an update on where we're at with the requirements. Sent a letter to the families at the Hayward Center on October 11th, and so all the families have been notified. Our AEA support person recommended that we send the report that the state of Iowa had for us ready to fill out, and so we had to make a few adjustments. But Sarah Youngers from the AEA has been our district support person. She's been pretty helpful in helping us move forward. There was a group that met, a team of teachers and myself and Sarah, and then we're going to to create a plan, and we'll present that plan to the teachers, and then after we present to the teachers, we'll present the plan up here to the board next month. And then to the parents.
Okay, reading here
And the focus is the goals that are at the bottom of that part.
20% of the Title I funds.
Correct.
10% of them to professional development.
Correct.
What happens if that's not used?
The 10% for professional development.
Well, the 20%, because if they want to go, that's for if they want to go to another school, so that's.
That 20% we can request for it in the spring. So in March or
And
April.
put back
we can-
into
to
Title
go
I
back
part.
into the pot. Go back into the pot. If it's not used, then traditionally we've been able to request that funding for next year.
And the professional development, is that?
10% additional.
Okay.
So 10%.
30% of.
30% of the Title I budget. In the past, we've been able to spend it all on everything we want, on staffing, which is the part that hurts. That's where we could actually hire Title I associate or part-time Title I teacher to support our at-risk population.
So this professional development, what
Well-
would that be?
It has to match the sign-up plan. So whatever
Okay.
we create in the plan, which is focusing on math proficiency, specifically math practice, trying to find ways to increase math practice for students. What we're finding is they aren't taking the the math that we're offering to them and teaching them, taking it home, there's not that practice time that we used to have parents that sat and really worked with their kids. We don't have that same support, so we're going to increase math proficiency by supporting the kids in all groups with the math practice specifically. One of that is Everyday Math provides games, so trying to find ways to get the kids really confident in the games because that increases practice. So also supporting our teachers in Everyday Math because they haven't had as much professional development. So we're going to have the consultant come in and help help us review and learn Everyday Math so that we're actually really feeling like we're confident in it. That's math. And then reading, our focus is trying to increase proficiency through teaching those small reading groups, really learning how to identify the needs of our students.
And I certainly don't want to step on your report, but here's a good example of how a significant amount of funds are earmarked. They're categorical funds. That's the only way we can use them. And so this is part of the consequence. The federal government is dictating to us what we have to do with our Title I, our federal money. We also get from the state this year $47,534 that has to be used on professional development. So, you know, sometimes it's use it or lose it, because those are the only uses that we can spend it on.
Then, because we are a SINA school, the state also gives us SINA money. So we have, in addition to the money we've set aside for Title I, we have $14,000 for SINA for the plan and the goals.
So if we have 30% of Title I funds that are disappearing and putting into another account, do we have any financial, budgetary things that we have to adjust to stay within that?
The Title I budget has to be met, and it's already been adjusted for that.
Okay, but you made a comment that we spend the money on teachers or stuff like that.
Well, then we can't make those decisions. What happened is last year there was carryover. There was a pot of leftover funding from Title I, so they carried that over for this year. So it was kind of a blessing in disguise because that money could then be put as the set aside. That 20% set aside was pretty much the carryover that we saved.
How long does this SINA last?
SINA, the plan is a 2-year plan. The SINA money, it depends on how our growth shows for next year, but the expectation is that we'll probably be on SINA again next year, due to the requirements.
Without the carryover from this year, and so is it possible we're going to have to make some adjustments with teachers, number of teachers, or something to do with Title I next year?
Possibly. Typically, it depends. Yeah, good question. Very good. It's definitely something to think about. Good question. So then the third area on the goal for the SINA is to align Iowa core standards to curriculum in reading and math, which is what the teachers have been working so hard on already with the standards-based report card. So some of the tasks that they've already been working on with subs in their room and working on getting that work done is supported through the SINA plan.
Isn't that where Mr. Branstad is pushing? He wants to stay to the Iowa core and nothing else. Isn't that what he keeps saying all the time?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, I listened to him talk here a while back, and he said somebody wasn't going to listen to the federal, it was going to stay with Iowa core. And when you said that the federal people are getting funny, I was wondering if that had something to do
He
with it.
came out very strongly
Yes.
for local control,
Yes.
which is wise political.
Can you just explain the new report card?
Yes.
And what the advantages are to the switch?
So the new report card, it's a standards-based report card. It's new to 5th grade this year. Well, it's not new actually. The only people it's really, but it's new. It's hard to explain. 4 years ago, elementary went from having A through F grading scale to a standards-based report card, which is very similar to what kindergarten and first grade have had for forever, I think, which is more of a skill-based report card. So we look at the specific skills and standards that the kids need to learn each year. And so they scored out, like kindergarten and first grade have always scored out for those skills. So what happened is 4 years ago, they started switching it to a standards-based report card, but they didn't do it the whole school. They did second grade, and then the next year, third grade, fourth grade was last year, fifth grade is this year. What happened was the standards that were used were not Iowa core standards, we didn't know that at the time, but district standards. So they used district standards, made it work, and so it's been coming up. What happened last year were a lot of parents were unhappy with the standards-based reporting because it was a report card that wasn't useful to them. They didn't feel like they were getting enough information from it. So it was effective in telling the parents what the standards were without telling exactly where the students were going with it. So the idea was to revise it, revamp it, make it more user-friendly, and then we found that it was needed to be Iowa core as well. So it's been a big task.
So is there a template for that you follow, or do you just, you as administration, come up with the report card, or how do you go about?
The staff have been working very hard. They started this summer on creating it. What we looked at was what we had, and then revised it based on that. But we also realized that the Iowa core standards needed to be there, not district standards. So it's been a very big task, not one that we didn't understand how big it was, because when you change the report on what you're reporting out, it then ended up changing on what we were grading.
So are there still
we
letter
thought,
grades given or not?
Oh,
is it?
Yeah, there. It's a score. It's a 4,
Okay.
3, 2, 1 instead of A through F scoring.
4 being the highest.
4 being that exceeds, meets, progressing, and then not meeting. And there's some standards that won't be assessed right off the bat.
4, 3, 2, 1. How's that different from A, B, C, D? There's no difference.
No, it's a
Just
huge
a number.
difference, huge difference, huge, because A, B, C, D is based on percentages. Not that, and that's what it strictly is based on. Applying a percentage to a worksheet or some piece of data, so you're taking and wanting to quantify something that sometimes is not always quantifiable, because you're taking some assessment in writing, and how do you assign a percentage to that? How do I assign a 90, 80? What I need to do is actually look at that piece or that document to determine, does it meet the definition of being a 4, which is exceeding the standard? And therefore we're taking the standard piece and actually taking exactly what we're teaching to, as opposed to a subject where writing, we apply oh, you got an A in English. Okay. What does that tell me? Nothing. That tells me nothing. It tells me you passed the course. Well, as a parent, what's the course? I haven't seen the syllabus. I don't know the standards because I don't use them in my everyday language with my son and daughter, ever. I mean, even as a teacher, even as the son of a teacher, we didn't use the language of the standard in high school English. But if it had been on my report card and said, hey, let's break down this area of writing down to actually what you're required to do, and use those state standards, those core standards, or those national standards that you're going to be applied to and assessed based on SAT, ACT, and actually take that down and break that down, and then we'll show your parents exactly, using that same language, exactly how you're doing. So they can go back and say, you know what? You have some great creative language in your writing piece, but you know where you're really struggling is on your punctuation materials. And by doing that on that score, I can have that and present that to that parent and have a meaningful conversation with that parent about, this is where your kid is really good, this is where they struggle, where, boy, I just gave your kid an A in English, but you know what? When they go off to college and don't get in, and they have to retake freshman English, and you have no idea why, if I had had that conversation, it would have been beneficial.
So,
And that's what we're doing.
so you're saying is though, within English, there's different, I call them headings, that is graded 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yes.
You've taken away the general and broke it down.
And
So they can have a 4 and 1 and a 1 and 1 under English,
Correct.
or under math, or under science.
Correct.
So,
All
okay,
based
whereas
on
we
the-
didn't have that before.
Does this seem to be kind of what other districts are going to, more of the norm than? or
Locally,
not?
I've had a lot of conversations with the elementary principals locally, and they're asking, you know, how's it going and where are we at? And there's a lot of interest because it is a national conversation. It's not something new, like that's just showing up here. It's a national conversation because it's happening all over the United States.
Okay.
And due to the Common Core, which is where Iowa Core comes from, is the Common Core. Our local Akron uses standards-based report cards, and they've been using that for a number of years.
In the school district I worked in Colorado, actually, where a lot of this national push is coming from, core curriculum, we had a elementary standards-based report card 14 years ago.
Started in 1985 in Colorado.
So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, right?
4, 3, 2, 1 for
Yeah.
the elementary.
That's all.
Yeah, but it's, there's
All
a
right,
scale.
and you have categories, and you assign numbers to those categories, and then how do you come up with the final result? It's an average, isn't it?
No, each individual standard skill, whatever that skill is,
So with
reads
that,
fluently
okay,
at
so,
grade level. They would get, he's reading above that grade level, he's a 4 because he's exceeding
so
that.
on this report card, we're going to see a lot of numbers.
A lot of numbers.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so if we're, you reference to college,
Mm-hmm.
so are we using this at high school?
Not
At,
yet.
at this point, we just talked elementary.
Okay, well,
we
so
haven't had that
then,
conversation.
so then, the conversation that you just told us is mute at this point.
Oh, yes,
Okay.
definitely.
Well, I meant,
And the
because-
challenge that we face coming up, and the reason why, I would love nothing more than to move it. The challenge is that, yes, 14 years ago in the elementary, it's been around that long. High school struggle with it for the mere fact that we utilize GPA. And we go back to that quantifiable
Well,
effect.
that's why I-
We're then quantifying something, and how you put this to a quantity so it can be discernible based
By
on your,
knowledge.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so
That's why I
that's where that process comes really slow. Would I love for it to work? Absolutely, because I think it is the way to report how kids are truly doing in their classes accurately and efficiently is through standards-based report card. And then I think quantifying and just trying to attach a score doesn't really show a true picture for me.
Might not for you, but if you average all those things, you're going to have some kind of number that's going to indicate about where they might be. So some parents out there could understand that this is close to BA, CD, whatever it is.
I offer an observation, I've been listening, I really enjoyed the conversation, but, so Ryan, this would be a good example, say, I get an A in calculus and math, and I nail it, I'm an outstanding math teacher, but I get a 16 on the ACT score.
Something's wrong.
What's up with that? Something's wrong. Standards-based would allow me maybe to see it's math fluency. Randy takes too much time in order to do the calculations, and the ACT is a timed assessment. And so a standards-based will address
Be able
that.
to address
And
that.
so Randy, you
Right.
need to get quicker
Maybe not a good test taker.
if you
Right.
want to score well on the ACT, rather than, you know, judging, oh, bad math program or bad math student. Yeah, it's just, so that's the way you can dig in with a standards-based evaluation. Thank you for educating me.
Yeah, thank you, Carrie, because I didn't know anything about that in the report card.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Collins.
I didn't include this in the board packet, so would you take one of these and give a copy to the reporters too? And anybody else that wants a copy, you can have. I just plan to do a financial snapshot of today's meeting, and then within the next 4 or 5 weeks, do the annual financial update to the staffs. And so Danny, you should have an extra one there too. You get the reporter there. So on the spreadsheet, this is my Bible, the unspent balance. I just highlighted two at the top, fiscal year, so FY, fiscal, not financial, not anything. It's fiscal year 12. That stood for school year 2011, 2012, and fiscal year 13 was last school year. It ended on June 30th. Finally, the dust is settled and we can give an accounting for how we ended up last year. Good report. We increased our, and I call it a reserve because that's actually what it is. If I had to choose one financial indicator out of everything, this is the one. And I've highlighted the bottom numbers. We increased our reserve by 20% last year, $300,000. That's significant. That's good news. Okay. Mr. Witt suggested that I include some brief explanation as to why. It ain't rocket science. We had 67 extra kids. And so the other cell that I've highlighted there, that's reflected in that $434,089. That's a chunk of change. And what's neat about this, and where I'll get it into more detail, I guarantee our staff will know more about school finance than 95% of the legislators after we're done, because we'll do a school finance 101. But what's cool about that is the way the system is set up, it doubles. So basically last year's enrollment resulted in about $1 million gift dropping into our laps, because then it's reflected again, and I didn't highlight that, but if you go to the top of fiscal year 14, you see those same 67 kids there. So that's a windfall. And so when I talk about, boy, you know, when the sun shines, you got to make hay, now's the time. Now's the time to invest. And you'll hear me get pretty excited about that. But that's just a quick financial snapshot. Originally, I was going to share that at the joint board meeting of September 30th. But we had to cancel that or postpone it because we didn't have a quorum. Okay, flip her around. Okay, I wouldn't call this bad news, but it, you know, every system we need to be aware. This is our annual financial update as far as debt. Currently, we are in debt $6,055,000. Okay, and I've highlighted a little, so that's our total debt. One was from 1999 that was refinanced, so that's our GO. That's a GO bond. At that time, the district went to the public approved it. My understanding is that we had many worthwhile projects, I believe, in all three buildings, or demolition of or got rid of it at middle school, and so lots of good stuff happened. We refinanced that in 2009. So that's why it says issue date 2009. I'm sure that's because the interest rates were so low that we could save tens of thousands just by refinancing. That current debt will be retired in about 5 years. Okay, in 2018, that's about $2.3 million. Okay, so for 5 years, that debt. Next debt is, you see how I've highlighted revenue? That's our state penny debt. That's the one that we just acquired a couple years ago. That's being funded with state penny. You don't go to the public for that. So that's not paid for with property tax. That's paid for with the revenue that we get from the sales tax. Okay? Now, a downside of that, and again, I'm not putting a negative spin on it, but these are things we need to know. The downside of that kind of debt is you have to lay aside a reserve, because is sales tax guaranteed, or does it fluctuate based on the economy? Go with B. It fluctuates based on the economy. So the terms force you to keep a significant amount in reserve. That amount for us is approximately $300,000, just a little bit less. So that money's tied up until this debt is retired, and that's 2030. So when you hear me talk about, hey, you know, things are a little bit tight with our PEPL and our state penny, this is why. Okay, we have significant debt. Now, thank goodness for Mr. Kramer, because he does a fantastic job of laying out our PEPL, and I think he's going to probably share that with you in the next month or two, but he shared it with Danny and I just today or yesterday. Ryan's got it laid out. Next 5 years, here are our projects, here are our priorities. Eventually, Mr. Kramer, we want to share that with the board, but also especially the facilities committee, because that'll drive what we're able to do. Sometimes you got to choose between buses, which that should be a pretty high priority since they move our kids every single day, or something else. And that's what Mr. Kramer's done. He's put together a multiple year plan that prioritizes how we're going to use our expected revenues. So that's a financial snapshot. Questions?
Yeah, I got a question about some survey that has been distributed amongst our staff. What was there a purpose to that? Was it done school-wide?
School-wide, facilitated by our counselor, Mr. Hanson, so that staff could respond anonymously. Mr. Hanson will put together results and share it with administration. Somewhere I got to look at it again, but somewhere one of you were told that the board was surveying staff. I don't think that's what the survey said, but I'm not sure. I'll have to look at it again. But no, it was not board generated. It was generated from an administrative team meeting where we asked the counselor to go out and gather some data, mainly dealing with staff morale.
So the counselor is going to, in this case Jim, is going to compile the results. Are we going to see the individual responses?
At this point, I'd prefer that we used it in-house with administration, and let us take the data and come up with a plan to address concerns. That's the plan right now.
As opposed
to going public with a survey that was given anonymously. But I don't, we'll see where this takes us, Tim.
When can we expect the results?
The results are in, but Mr. Hanson is still kind of compiling, putting things together. Yeah, that really came from, I think I was asked by two, I think it was Ken and maybe Gary, asked me about staff morale. So I don't know, it depends on who you're talking to and about what. I think was my quick response. I said, well, we should be a little more scientific than that. So yeah, the survey included several kind of multiple choice questions and then also an opportunity for comment.
Thank you. Under informational items, we have Mr. Collins going to present to us the school board convention.
You bet. Yeah, this is an annual convention, well worth your time, but it is a commitment. It's held in Des Moines. It's an event put on by your professional organization. So administrators have School Administrators of Iowa, teachers have the Educational Association, you guys have the Iowa Association of School Boards. So it's training that's directed for school board members. Again, well worth your time. I think you have the packet, dates. And if you're interested in attending, all you got to do is let Danny know and she'll arrange lodging. At this time, I understand, I think Mr. Witt is looking at going. I'd love to have the whole board go. It's an excellent time for us to get training and share, maybe coordinate and cooperate, spread out a little bit and then come back and share. We just have to be careful while we're at stuff like this, because if we get 3 of you all in one area, that's poor. If you start having conversations about exciting ideas, some people might put the wrong spin on that, like you're having an illegal board meeting. So yeah, if we get 2 more that go, we're just going to have to be real thoughtful when we have conversations. But outstanding training offered on an annual basis. They also offer, and I'll start forwarding this, but local trainings. I believe Mr. Witt attended one last year. They're called ABLE. I can't remember what ABLE stands for, but it deals on a range of topics. It might be achievement, it might be budget, it might be personnel. Those are always useful. I will tell you we've had some conversation, and I think this is more with Akron Westfield. I can't remember if Mr. Witt and I have talked about this, about maybe commissioning a representative from the School Board Association to come here and do an on-site training at a joint board meeting, so we can get more bang for our buck. I mean, there's an expense there, they charge, but that can be good at home, close to home type of an opportunity for you to get some training.
And they give you a bunch of items of interest that you would like to be trained on, actually. I mean, it's not there, it's what we request.
Yep. Yeah, when you look at it, and I'll try not to ramble on too much, but you're in positions of importance, and yet what kind of training? This is an opportunity for you to get the training. Without this, boy, a lot of times you may be struggling with what do I do and how do I do it. So, and it comes from your organization. So, okay.
Thank you. Okay, under the joint meeting date, Akron Westville did not have enough board members to have a forum on their side. That's the reason why we canceled the last time. Talking to Jim Black, he's basically has asked, one, if we could set a date for a new one tonight. And they want to have it as soon as possible over what makes sense. So the dates that they said that all of their board members could generally make was the 24th or 25th of October. Either the 24th could be either in the evening or 7 or 7:30 a.m.
What day is that?
That's a Thursday and a Friday.
This week.
This would be the end of this week already, see.
Oh.
Now that's
I'm just thinking, sorry.
Yeah, that's a suggestion. That's a suggestion from them. Or the 25th would only be in the morning, and that's probably the general feeling from their board. If we can match it with them, that's what he gave us. We can come back and do it into November if we want to. But what we're trying to do is keep as close to the quarterly meetings as we can, is what we're trying to do. Now, we've actually had another conversation is having 2 joint meetings and having other meetings with the vice president and the president of each one, talking, and then, no motions, no action, no anything could be made at that meeting. Just basically conveying, talking, and coming back and conveying to the board members what that was. So, and the reason for that would be is just trying to get a quorum on both boards to meet at the same time is sometimes difficult. So, I would just as soon keep everybody coming to all 4 of them, because I think you get a lot more information through the questions or comments. So, if you want to, you can think about that, but we have to post it. We're going to have to post it in time to have the meeting, which would be, we'd have to know by tomorrow, correct? 48 hours.
Should be at least 24, yeah.
And Wednesday leaving. I'll be out of town till Sunday, so I can't.
Okay.
Can we meet a quorum?
Yes.
If you want to wait, fine, but can you get 3 of us together? Do it?
Well, if I can be there, and Tim can be there.
I would prefer not Friday. I would prefer Thursday night.
Well, I won't be there in the morning at 7 or 7:30. Not the rest of this week, probably. I mean, I guess I'm pushing for a night evening meeting, and he left it open. Jim left it open to us, and then we could pick the time, which would probably be 6 o'clock, and it would be at their school, because Mr. Collins wants to show the auditorium. Remember that email? You got an email or a text to talk to you
I think I can make Thursday.
about. If if you, okay, I like everybody to go with him. I mean, that's the general deal.
I think it's just hard to find a night that everybody's gonna be there, so you maybe just need to, would I love to go? I'd love to go, but maybe you need to go with the majority of who can be there, go for it.
Unless you want to push it off to next week, Monday or Tuesday, or did he have any options for?
I think what we're trying to do, what he's really trying to do is get it into the month of October.
Be done with it by.
Well, to follow the quarterly thing.
It's still October next week.
True. Is this something that we have to decide in an open meeting tonight?
No,
If I can have a chance to talk to Jim, and he can have a chance to get message, so he at least has a quorum, and we can go. And Danny or somebody will get back to you. It might work just great.
Yeah.
I don't know, have you talked to Jeff at all, or?
Hasn't responded to any of this yet. It's important that I think it's important that everybody that can be there, be there.
If you're emailing this one, I don't think
No,
he
I
gets them, so.
emails you don't get?
Well, no, I don't think so. I think,
Oh.
he doesn't have access to he might have better access with his home email than through the school. I don't know why that is.
Okay.
But he said something about that, or to text him.
Okay. He's never answered any of my texts
Well,
Danny does pretty good.
maybe I don't know.
Well, he calls you back.
He doesn't.
Do you get
If I would have talked to him, I asked Danny. He likes her.
I usually, if I get response for emails, usually personal email.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Oh, I go through okay. I'm learning something. He has said something about that. I think now that you said it. But anyway, we will figure this out. Under new business, we have the first readings of board policies, the 211 open meetings, 215 director's records, and then we also have the first reading of board policies. And then, Ryan, you want to say something about this, about Ms. Hensley?
Yeah, it was actually just as part of our Safe and Supportive Schools grant. They automatically review board policies, and as part of their recommendation to be compliant with the state and offer as much certainty to the harassment policy that everything else looked just fine, but that we would need to change the wording to investigators will consider the totality of the circumstances. And that was one component that they feel should be important to add, yes. But that's the only change that would be made, would be the addition of that statement.
Now, the first policies, make sure you read them good because that pertains to us. Board policies, handling complaints from the district or citizens, especially with the new president. So I don't carry us under or something. So I don't say something. Explain what is that one comment? What does that change?
Really, it just looks at that we cannot singularly look at an individual item that happened with an instance and look at the overall picture. Why they need that exact statement, I would probably have to talk to the school attorney to determine why that is something important. In reality, does it happen? I would assume in almost all cases the investigator, as I can only reference myself, that would be the case, but it was much more, as I understood it, to refer to more what the school attorneys would like to see in the policy to be able to defend it.
I think that's to ensure that we are looking at the whole incident and not just one isolated event as the harassment.
Then we have an action item under the fundraisers for 2013-14, correct? That's from now till the end.
Yes, that is correct.
And so in front of us, we have last meeting we okayed some fundraisers. Now these are additional, correct? Okay.
Yes, they are.
Okay.
How money does this make total?
I didn't have a count on.
$4 million.
I have a question about post-prom.
Okay.
That's not school related, is it?
Post-prom is, well,
Never has been.
how do you refer to school related?
That's separate from anything that we have anything to do with, this district, school district. That has been separate along all the time. So it's not part of,
Financially or
Yeah, both.
supervision-wise? Because it takes place on our campus.
that's all, they can
Post-prom,
rent
yes.
someplace else.
Post-prom takes place here.
That's okay if it's here, but
Right.
the space is all right, but, as I understand it, we do nothing else with that, maybe let them have the space, but that's all.
And financially, there's no support, but in regards to where the money is kept on our line item and under activity, we do have post-prom as a line item, is that correct? Or just prom?
Yeah,
Just prom. And they do not include any of these items within that as they fundraise? Does that money go towards, into the prom account, or how does?
The post-prom goes, that's separate from the school, it's never.
So they actually do have their own account
They
in
do.
regards to banking at a local bank, and that's where that money goes.
Yep.
So we don't need to approve that because they're free to do whatever.
Well, they're doing them, it kind of depends. I don't know. It's really up to the board as they see it. But they're doing them all under the auspice of West Sioux and at many West Sioux events using West Sioux garden flags as an example, West Sioux t-shirts. They're still utilizing a lot of things to do with the school, but that is totally a board decision, not mine. I have no preference, honestly.
I think
And actually
that-
may prefer that they wouldn't, but be approved just because it exits out a few of the fundraisers from our approval factor and my oversight, but it's completely up to what the board would like.
Well,
Or Mr. Collins, please.
we have a historian here on, I mean, we have a paid historian
Well,
on
paid
staff.
historian.
yeah. I mean, that brought up a good thing that we just.
Oh, absolutely.
Think about.
Absolutely.
And I just want to make a comment, remind us that the after prom, the objective is really noble. Prom is one of the scariest nights of the year, and it's designed and sponsored by parents who love their kids and want to provide competitive activities to keep their kids off the road. So is it related to school? Not in the strictest sense, but are they our kids and do we care about them? Do we want to support this? And do they want to raise money at school events? Yes. So I think that's why the board is contemplating this.
Well, we're talking 2 more listed fundraisers added on to the list of many, so. Does it interrupt, does this interrupt, has this been, this post-prom, is this new since it's just added, or is it something that went on that we never approved? Meaning is.
I don't know which ones were separated out of prom and post-prom.
Okay.
For fundraisers, so I couldn't answer that question exactly.
Historically, I was a junior class sponsor for 100 years. And we didn't do anything with the post-prom. That was all done by parents and the whole bit.
And that's actually, it is a separate group that is doing it. They just, in conjunction with working with the junior class sponsor, had those ideas.
So if they wanted to have a fundraiser, all they would need is our permission to have a football game.
Right.
If they want to do their thing, go ahead, do your thing. I mean, is it something that,
Maybe they just
It'd be,
What we're trying to do is watch so we don't overburden.
yeah.
That's basically, and so that they know that they have their time set aside in your calendar to do this.
and they're not competing against other organizations that might have these
That's
same
respectful,
fundraisers.
I mean, with them.
That's why they're on here, and that's why we okay it. That's.
Yeah, no, you can okay it if you want to, but we need to know that that's different. And there is some competition in this, these fundraisers, because somebody else is selling those chocolate bars. If you look in the stuff we got last time. That's just information.
At the same time.
I'm assuming these are all gonna go on.
Well, you have certain dates and certain times that you're
Right,
allowed to do this.
right, yeah. Yeah, all of these don't come out in this last 2 months or anything, they're spread out throughout the entire
Well,
school.
I'm sure we've approved them for the whole year, haven't
Right,
we?
right, exactly.
Or we've approved some, like
Right.
the 4,000
Yes.
for 100 for that
Okay.
thing, okay?
Well,
Correct.
okay. So I guess what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna ask if there's motion that could come forth so we could actually do the discussing in the time.
I make a motion
Okay.
To what?
to approve the fundraisers as listed.
And add them to the ones that were at the last meeting. Or the ones that you emailed us about and included in here.
Yes, that would be included, yes.
Okay. Do we have any discussion on top of what we discussed?
I don't have any more.
Okay. Then I'm gonna ask, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Tim, Dawn made the motion, Tim seconded it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Thank you, Brian. Okay. Now we have approved sharing agreement with Akron Westfield. I'm gonna let Mr. Collins explain what we're doing and explain about the individual. And
First of all, accept responsibility. This is late. This teacher's been working for us for 2 months. I should have brought this back in August, same time we did the other sharing agreements, and I didn't. So that's my bad. The reason that we're purchasing 2/10 of the teacher's time is because we have a fantastic facility that is understaffed. So we invested significant funds in remodeling and upgrading our industrial tech and VOAG departments. And we only have 1 FTE currently, Mr. Chapman, trying to cover 2 programs. To give you just a little bit of comparison, Akron Westfield has 200 fewer students. They have 2 FTEs to cover, so twice as many teachers to cover fewer students. We also have some stuff here, alternative fuel programs that we could nurture and expand. The automotive programs that are offered out there, those are exciting programs that we could use to attract other students to our district. We could be a provider of education to neighboring districts, and that's huge. Mainly what Matthew is doing, and don't get this guy confused with our alternative ed teacher. So we got 2 different Matts, okay? Matthew has been working for Akron Westfield. Now this is his 2nd year. He comes over in the morning, teaches the first 2 periods. Basically has taken off some real basic, I think, Ryan, what classes?
He's taken on,
Woods.
yep, Woods, and then the welding, the
Welding.
mission, first welding.
So the kind of the basic 101 classes, is taking that off of Mr. Chapman's plate so Tom can offer alternative fuels advanced and some really exciting programs. So the cost to us is about $13,500 a year. There is a revenue stream that's generated. Every one of our students that takes instruction from this teacher generates supplemental weighting, but it's nowhere in the same neighborhood as, say, the other operational sharing. You know, when I talk about 83,000, no, this is more in the hundreds per student. So we have a chance to generate, you know, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 here to offset the $13,500. It's really I consider it to be a safe way of expanding our programs, see if we can build some interest rather than going out and committing to hiring a new person, bringing them in at a significantly higher cost, and then maybe cutting them a year or 2 later. That's not a very good strategy. The other thing I like about this is it continues to build the sharing agreement with Akron Westfield. What a convenient mode of transportation. Matthew lives to the south. He's going to be coming this way every morning. He's willing and able to stop in Akron Westfield, pick up students, bring them with him. They take 2 classes. It might be his, it might be science. And we kind of talked about this last year when we did the tour of our facilities. But all of a sudden, the door has opened up to a lot of really neat opportunities for Akron Westfield students. And then Matthew goes back after 2 periods. What a neat opportunity for kids to crawl in the vehicle with him. So now we have a route between the 2 districts that can transport students. So,
How do they get back here?
back there,
If you haul Akron Westfield students here and he leaves before they're done, how do the Akron students get back, or vice versa?
if we have a student, now typically they'll take 2, if they want to ride with Matthew, they're going to have to just take 2 classes. If we have a student, and we may, that wants to stay third, maybe the whole morning, that'll be Akron's problem, challenge. And trust me, we're interested. You know, I've talked to Mr. Briggs. He has a volunteer that's willing to run shuttles between the 2 districts. I mean, look at this from Akron's viewpoint. You have a chance to access state-of-the-art facilities and expand course offerings at a very economical, reasonable price. So yeah, that would not be we're not transporting the kids. It's up to them. They got to get here and go home.
So, if I understand right, we're paid by weighting. So that weighting is based upon the kids that come from Akron Westfield.
From our kids taking a teacher whose time we're buying. So
Okay.
any West Sioux student taking classes from that will generate supplemental weighting. And the purpose there, Larry, was of that. I'm sorry, Gary. Oh, sure. Beat me up. The purpose was, the state was trying to encourage larger districts to share.
Okay, I guess the reason why, so that weighting is based upon 104%, 106% of $6,144.
It'd be close. I mean, it would be whatever percentage. Yeah, exactly. You're 1.0.
Okay, but I'm not asking for the amount.
Yep.
I mean,
Somewhere around there.
And so that includes. So what we're doing is we're taking class time that Mr. Chapman has already been teaching.
Last year had been teaching those courses. Yes, correct.
And what we're doing is we're asking for Akron Westfield to come and relieve some of his time, and they're bringing Akron Westfield kids with him, and they've been doing that since the first year.
No students from Akron Westfield are currently taking classes. Okay? Our hope is second semester they'll start coming over. So the teacher is teaching West Sioux kids right now. And that generates that supplemental weight.
So did Mr. Chapman have too heavy of a load? Is that why
We want him to, the whole design was actually to design this new course that we're going to be offering next year in diesel mechanics. And there's actually 2 courses that he's working on. And so in order to accomplish that, yeah, we did need to relieve his schedule to be able to accomplish that task, because really what we see as a way to draw in and become, like Mr. Collins had talked about, a regional academy, was that we need to design some of these courses that are not offered,
Right.
and to be really on the cutting edge. And so what areas that Mr. Chapman had could we maybe take away his expertise from, still provide that opportunity to gain exposure to those classrooms, and we decided, okay, those entry-level classes were the ones that we want to relieve him of, and then it opens up his schedule to allow for putting those new classes right in.
Diesel mechanics. Okay.
And then some other opportunities too. We want to offer some things that are out of the ordinary and unique to be able to get kids, because you know, it might not be entitled diesel mechanics. I don't know exactly what our title will be.
Are we going to do some PD for that?
Well, that's what Mr. Chapman's working on right now. And that's why he has that time. So
He's being smart at it.
What is PD?
Professional development.
Of course.
It's okay. That's okay. All right.
That's okay. I didn't know that before today either, so I'm okay.
So then I'm gonna ask a real blunt question. Is there a reason why we didn't know about this before now?
I dropped the ball. I forgot.
Okay.
Yeah, the billing from Akron Westville, we're billed on a quarterly basis, and that's what flagged it. Oh, that's right, the board didn't approve this. So that's a
Did
blunt
Akron-
answer.
Did Akron Westfield approve this before?
I think so. I'm almost sure they did, but I'd have to check.
Is there a motion on the table? Could we, after discussing this, which was before, is there anybody that would like a motion?
So moved. Let's get her going.
Okay, there is a motion made by Ken and the motion is to approve the contract.
That's
What
right.
we're doing is approving the contract.
The
right?
sharing agreement.
Yeah, the sharing
Yep,
agreement.
with Akron Westfield.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I think we had the discussion.
Okay, Tim, second. All those in favor say by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, the same. Thank you. Okay, that is the end of our regular meeting. Now, we need to go into closed session. And with that being said, I have the format in front of me. We need a motion to go into closed session. And do I have to state the reason at this time, correct? As provided in section 21.5I of the Open Meetings Law to evaluate the professional competency of an individual whose performance is being considered to prevent needless and irreparable injury to that individual's reputation. So we have a motion, I need a motion to go into that. Followed by a second.
Second.
Seconded by Dawn. And then we need to do a roll call vote.
Ken Cook,
Aye.
Dawn Hummel,
Aye.
McKinney, Gary Witt.
Aye. Okay.